Before this video starts, I'd like to give a warning that the subject matter that we're going to be talking about today is quite triggering to many people. The book that we're going to be talking about has a lot of graphic themes, and one of them is going to be, so if you're sensitive to hearing such kinds of materials, though I will not go so deep into it, I would not feel bad if you end up clicking off the video just right now. Just like to warn you before you hear more. So last week I went on a typing frenzy and I talked about a book in my previous video, Flowers in the Attic, and just like that I came up with the idea of talking about different books in every new weekly video. So this week's drawing was inspired by the book that I'm going to be talking about today. I really like pink trees, so the concept for this drawing was a tree that is beautiful and pink and kind of like using white for the back to show like it's a really dark book that we're going to be talking about. So maybe you'll see the theme that I was going for. I wanted the tree to be upside down, but then in the end I ended up changing it. This book is called Tender is the Flesh by, I need to read this, Agustina Bazterrica. I am so sure I butchered that name. This book, I read it I think it was last year when we were still in lockdown, one of the lockdowns. I don't know how many lockdowns we've had. And I remember I was alone in the house and I was listening to the audiobook at night. I always end up listening to horror or audiobooks at night. This is a horror book. So, and I'm not a professional reviewer, so please bear with me because my thoughts will just wander all over. And there will be mild spoilers. I'll really try not to like spoil the whole book, but since we're going to be talking about it, of course I might end up like talking about some of the major or some of the plot points. I saw this book recommended on Goodreads because that's where I normally find my book recommendations, and the blurb really caught my eye, but I did not know what I was getting into as I started to read the book, because I've never read a book that was so dark. Not read, okay, when I say read, I mean I read it because I listened to the book. I still read it. So we're not going to argue about whether audiobook is reading. It is reading according to me. So I've never read a book that is so dark, or that was as dark as this one. The storyline is, this is a dystopian world where all the animals, the domestic animals, that the ones that we normally eat, slaughter to eat, they caught a virus, so it made their meat inedible to humans. Because now they're inedible, it left like a protein void protein void. Yes, we can get protein from other sources, but it left this protein void in the world. So the solution to this, what the government decided to do, was to breed humans. Okay, they're not even called humans in the book. They're called heads. Like, you know, the way you can call a head of cattle. Now that's how dehumanized those bred humans are. They now decided to breed humans so that they may be consumed by the other humans. So of course that already, it brought up so many questions in my mind, like how do you decide that this human is to be bred for slaughter? Even saying the word is just so crazy to me. Like, how do you decide that this human is to be bred for slaughter? You know, so they decided that there are humans who are going to be bred for slaughter to be eaten by the rest of the humans. Yes, let that sink in. So now this the protagonist, I don't even know if you can call him the protagonist but now let's call him then. The protagonist of the story is called Marco. The protagonist of the story is called Marcos, not Marco. He's like one of the higher-ups in the factory that deals with the heads of humans, like those heads of the humans where they go and they slaughter. I'm going to be bleeping this word every time I say it, where they got the humans. He's in charge of like the big picture in the factory, and he had a lot of stuff going on in his life, like he was going through a divorce and his child had died. So the tone of the book, like as he's talking, it was strange. It was like so removed and clinical, and like you can hear the disgust that he has towards his job as he talks about it, and the disgust that he has towards like what he's being forced to do, but he's actually still doing it. So you can feel and hear the disgust as he talks about it, because it was like narrated from his point of view. So one time, I know I'm going to end up like saying a lot of spoilers. So one time he got a gift of a female head, like she was pure, like GMO free, you know. And so now he was given her as a gift, and I think that's when it all just started going downhill from there, because he ended up like catching feelings. That's what we say locally. I don't know if it's proper English, but he ended up catching feelings for her. I don't want to talk too much about it because it's going to end up ruining the whole story of the book. And it's illegal for like the proper humans, I guess, like now these normal humans, to keep a female as a pet and like get even feelings for them and end up doing other things with them. That was illegal according to the government. So what he had to do, he had to hide her in his shed, I think, and then afterwards, of course, he moved her. Anyway, I won't go into that. And the crazy thing is that as you read the book, you can actually picture the world being in that kind of a situation where you're forced to confront your humanity. And I could actually see that happening. And maybe the worst thing was that I read the book when we're going through a pandemic, and you think that you're actually going through the end of the world. You can see that this is something that it's possible it could actually end up happening at one point or the other. And I think the worst parts for me, there's this chapter. They were going through a hiring process. Please bear with me. I read this book quite a while back, so maybe there's some details I might get wrong. But they were going through a hiring process. So there were a couple of recruits who had come to the factory where now they do the they'd come to see now the process through which the source of protein goes through so that it actually becomes protein. The author of the book was so descriptive about the process. I couldn't eat meat that day. It was so descriptive about how the heads come in, this is where they go through, and this is how they're stunned. It's like a modern house, the way goats and cows are normally. They do what they need to do. And one of the recruits was actually really excited to see all that. Throughout the whole book, you just end up reflecting a lot about the state of the world you're in and how something so small, like something could come out of nowhere and change life as you know it. And I think we've gone through that last year and this year, and we've seen how that could just end up happening. I don't want to talk about things that I'm not that educated in, but there are those things about privilege and what's this word? Propaganda from the government. I was wondering, like, when now it started, if it was to start right now, which side would I go to? Who would now be the start of the breeding of the heads, like right now, and who would now like stay to be like the normal humans? And of course, when you look at it like that, you can already foretell that if that were to happen right now, of course it's the privileged people who would go and stay be normal, and of course the less privileged people who do not have the ability to fight for themselves would likely be the ones to go in that kind of a direction. Oh, the ending gave me trust issues because I could not tell that the book was going to go in that direction. Back to the painting, I just wanted the painting to have this bleak look that matched the kind of feeling that I got when I read that book. Honestly, I would only recommend it to the fans of horror and to people who have a strong stomach. That's number one, and a strong heart. If you're able to remove yourself from the story and actually realize that it's fiction and read it with an open mind, because it can be a really polarizing book. I'll leave a link to the Goodreads page for this book, and when you go there you can also find links to where you can purchase the book or listen to it. But it's a really good book. Well, good is a strong word, I think, but it's a really interesting book to read, and it's the one which I had in my mind last week. So if you also have any book recommendations that you would like me to talk about, please let me know. In case I've read it, I'll talk about it. If I haven't, I will look for it and read it. Also, I hope you've enjoyed watching along to the video. And I guess I'm going to see you guys next week. Yeah, I will see you next week. Rather, you will see me next week. If you've gotten to this point and you've liked the video, you know what to do. And also, if you like my content and you'd like to hear more from me and see more from me, please feel free to subscribe. So till next time, catch you on the flippity flip.